So I've been playing around with block weapons more after the patch 5.1 hotfix, and the block chainsword on Vanguard can actually be pretty good once you learn how to work with the quirks of the block weapons. In this solo lethal run on decapitation, I'll show you the playstyle and tactics that make this weapon do some serious work. So after playing with the block chainsword quite a bit more in patch 5.1, it does seem like it's at least on an equal footing with balanced and fencing, with the caveat that you have to play with it quite a few times once you get used to it. Now, I'm not sure if this still goes for the block hammer and the block knife, and I've never actually played with the power fist, but the chainsword, the block chainsword in particular, after playing with it some more, I do feel that it's actually pretty good. I tried this run on solo lethal decapitation with fencing and balanced, and the block chainsword was the first one that I was actually able to clear it with on Vanguard. I've done it with bulwark before with fencing, but never on Vanguard. So once you get used to it, I think it is pretty powerful. One thing you'll kind of notice here is once you get used to fighting these Majora's double sword warriors, you can actually take them out a lot more quickly. So I've been talking to some people in YouTube comments and on Reddit regarding how to play with the block weapons, and some people are saying, like, just wait for all three attacks and try to build up the AoE adrenaline surge. And other people say you should just, if it happens, cool. But if not, don't just stand around and wait to get all three charges. I believe that you don't need 3 stacks all the time, and I said that in a prior video as well, and I still do kind of stand by that, because I feel that if you're always waiting to build up 3 stacks, sometimes you'll just be standing there when you could be killing things. And especially in the higher difficulties, it's important to get enemies off the board as quickly as you can. So I feel like standing there waiting for them to attack you because you only have 2 stacks of adrenaline surge built up and you're trying to get to that third one, it can be pretty counterproductive. But as you'll see here, sometimes it does happen where you build up the 3 stacks pretty quickly, and when you get off that AoE attack, I still think it's not like hugely damaging. Like sometimes it feels like, oh, that should have got them into the execute status, but it does seem good enough, especially if there's a lot of Minoris enemies around you. It can knock them back and give you a little space. And once you get used to blocking with the block weapons, it does become a little bit easier to get the perfect blocks off. I think the Vanguard's perk that gives you a 50% bigger window might apply to the block. I'll have to double check that, but it really doesn't feel too bad on the Vanguard. So I'm able to build up the 3 stack adrenaline surge fairly often throughout this whole run. And then normally I would say, as far as tactics, you would want to take out those ranged Tyranids first, the ones that are shooting spikes, but I knew I had all these melee guys pretty low, so I was going to use them to heal and then just do my hook shot over to the ranged guy, which is what I did here. And then, as you can see there, I took him out really fast, so sometimes if you can get some uninterrupted attacks off on the Tyranid range warriors, I mean, you can clear them out pretty dang quickly with the block chainsword. I did have all the melee damage perks that are available in the Vanguard's tree, so I just went like full melee, but it actually seemed to work out pretty well. And here I am just checking for the relic there. It may be annoying to watch, but doing the spinning move over and over, it's actually just like the fastest way to move when you have the block chainsword. If you have the other chainswords, the balance one, it can't do this because the swing speed is too slow, but you can do it with the fencing one. And it takes a little bit of timing to do it correctly. Once you are able to do that, you can actually move pretty fast. And if you're playing with like dickheads and you need to grab a medkit that you know they're gonna steal from you, you can just kind of like use that to go faster than them. But don't steal every medkit for yourself. Remember to share with people. I'm just saying if you're playing with guys that are not sharing at all. So we made it out of that room, and now we're going to go into the second area here. So these ranged Tyranids, you have to be really careful on lethal because they'll just like blast you down really fast. But with the block Chainsword, usually you can get your health back fast enough to where it's not too bad. You can just kind of like out heal their damage and get your contested health back. And then the lictors are a little bit of a problem on block weapons because they attack so fast that it gets really difficult to deal with them. And I think I'm going to go down here for the first time on this run. I think I only went down 1 or 2 times. And the nice thing about the Vanguard is if you play well after you go down, you can get all your health back. And then if you find 1 medkit, you can clear your mortal wound. So you kind of get an extra life every time you find a medkit, with the caveat that you have to play well to get your health back without dying. And then I'm going to get off a full block there, which was much needed because I'm just on a sliver of health here. And then I got off another one, and then it puts him in the execution status, and then yeah, I went down here, so I was a little bummed about that. But especially when you're doing solo runs, it's important if you go down, try not to get tilted, because you're just going to play worse after that. So that's, especially for me, I just try to stay calm, and you know, if the run ends, it is what it is, but just got to play your best. And that sniper guy is just a pain in my ass. But he's pretty far over there, so I'm not too worried about him. But now that I've got some of the other threats cleared out, I'm going to go ahead and take care of him. I would want to zoom with the scope, but I'm a little worried about those other guys over there. And this lictor still running around. And then, man, those red circle attacks are just brutal, man. It's still, I feel they don't have like enough of an indicator still. So he beat me up pretty bad there, and then I got snipers on both sides of me. And then I accidentally hit that gun strike. I wanted to get a melee execute so I could heal. So I decided just to go in on melee for these guys. Usually you can take them out pretty fast with the block Chainsword. I gotta interrupt that guy, so I use my other grapple hook. And then I take him out, and then that guy's ready to execute. So I get quite a bit of life back off of all these guys. Mostly you just want to, if you're using a block Chainsword, just get up close to them, but try not to let them blast you with their full attack. If you can kind of like dodge to either side while you're coming up to them. So I got all those guys down, got quite a bit of healing off of it. I think the sniper is one of the bots that's actually pretty decent, because normally they don't do shit for damage, but since the sniper is such a high damage class, it kind of like still overrides that garbage damage that the bots have, so he can actually do a little bit of work. And then unfortunately that was just an armor boost instead of a healing. So my goal every time I get a mortal wound is I try to get enough executes to get back to full health, and then I'll use the medkit to give myself another life. So I got the dodge on that lictor, luckily, and then I actually recognized the red attack for once. But not that time. They just come out really fast, so it's difficult to deal with those red attacks from the lictors. And then one thing I noticed is, man, the lictors are way harder with block weapons, because if you have balanced or fencing, it will like knock them out of their attack sequence. But when you're using block, you're just like constantly on the defensive against the lictors. So things are going pretty well here. We got a Neurthrope spawn, so I'm going to have to deal with that. And then those double sword Tyranid warriors, when they do their 3-part attack, that's a great way to build up a full 3-stack adrenaline surge. And then I saved my crack grenades for the Neurothrope, which worked out really well. It's tough because if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, I've tried to lock on to them, but it doesn't seem like the grenades will automatically hit them even if you're locked on when you're on mouse and keyboard. I don't know how it is on controller, but with the crack grenades, you actually got to like aim it. So it can be, pretty tough because you're usually surrounded. And so it can be pretty hit or miss whether you're going to land it. But luckily that time I did. And then one thing that I did notice is that if you're trying to build up 3-stack adrenaline surge, if you shoot your gun, it doesn't waste the stacks that you already got. It's only if you do a melee attack. So if you're trying to build up all 3 stacks and you're like waiting for somebody to attack you, you can shoot your gun a little bit. So that's actually pretty nice. And then I got that range guy over there shooting at me, but luckily my bot got in his face there. I wish there was a function where the bots would like auto ping every enemy, because sometimes like when you're in a dark area, it can actually be tough to see what the enemies are doing. Like when they're winding up for their attacks and stuff. And then that Neurthrope actually got stuck there, so I was able to just kill him. So that was super lucky on that one. But yeah, it would be cool if the bots could ping the enemies, because then it does that little red outline on them and you can see them a lot more. But it's hard for myself to like stop and ping every single enemy. So yeah, sometimes it's just tough to see what they're doing. And then on solo lethal, the bombs, you want to make sure you're taking them out anytime you see them, those little flying bombs, because they can absolutely ruin a run super fast. And then once you make it to this point in the run, there's pretty much just 2 difficult parts left, maybe like 3. So the first one is the room where you have to set the bombs, and then after that, the first section after you blow up the Hive Tyrant, where you're going back into those kind of like building cave things, that area can get pretty difficult sometimes. And then the room just before you drop down to that area right before the Hive Tyrant fight, that area can get pretty backed up with enemies sometimes. So if you make it to this point, give yourself some credit because you're about halfway through here. But the bomb room, that ends a lot of runs because it can get pretty difficult in there, just because there's not a lot of space. So you can get like pushed up against a wall and killed pretty easily sometimes. And it will depend a lot on the RNG. For me personally, I'd rather see like a group of whip warriors than a group of ranged Tyranids like this. Just because the range guys do so much damage, they can just kill you so fast. So I tried to get away from some of them and isolate just that one guy by himself. And then as soon as I saw a med kit, I'm like, okay, I need to get that so I can try to get my mortal wound healed up. But I'm not quite sure if I have my health high enough to where it's going to heal that mortal wound. So I'm going to try to get off one more execute first. And then I'm going to interrupt those reinforcements. You can't always interrupt reinforcements on solo lethal, but it does help to still try to do your best to interrupt the ones that you can, but don't get yourself killed trying to do interruptions. So I was able to clear my mortal wound, and then I find another med kit, so we're looking pretty good right now. But I think I do go down, if I remember, I think I go down one more time in this room, And then I think that might have been it for the run. I'm not sure if I went down during the Hive Tyrant fight. Even like, you know, a pretty average player, maybe a little above average, can solo lethal. It's just about like knowing the run. So if you're having trouble soloing lethal, just do the same level over and over and you'll start to learn like the different spawns that can happen, the enemy spawns, and where you can stand for cover if you're getting like attacked by a lot of ranged enemies and stuff like that. So don't just do like random levels. Just do the same one over and over until you're able to clear it. You do have to deal with groups of Minoris enemies pretty quickly because they can be a big problem, especially with a block weapon because it gets a little difficult to block those little guys. So usually I like to do the AoE stomp to get rid of them. So you can do 3 hits with the chainsword, or there's a YouTuber called Higher Thought Gaming, and he has a short little video about how to get to the stomp in only 2 hits. So you can do it that way too, and if you need to get the stomp out really fast, that can help. And then once again, you know, those double sword warriors, they're really easy to build up all 3 block stacks on, so try to learn how to take advantage of that, because if you can get the adrenaline surge attack off, it does help, you know, getting that 2 armor back and doing a little bit of AoE damage. You don't want to play for that, like constantly trying to get that, but if you can get it quickly and easily, definitely do it. Alright, another double sword warrior here. And a bunch of Minoris. 1, 2, 3. Boom. See, so, and then I feel like it should just straight up kill the Minoris enemies if you get one of those off. But let's see if I get another one. And there we go. So a lot of the Minoris died there. So usually you probably need 2 adrenaline surge attacks. And then I'm getting just horribly messed up by that whip warrior there. And I kind of panic healed. Normally I would want to save that other healing to get a life back, but I was like, I don't really want to die here, but I don't think that was the right move. Probably should have just let myself go down because I went down anyway and now I don't have healing. So now I'm in kind of a tough spot because I'm low health on my last life. So let's see how I end up getting out of this. So I got the perfect block off on the whip warrior, so that really saved me there. So with the whip warrior attack, you gotta block all 4 parts of it, and then you won't take any damage. So just get used to hitting all 4 of them, and just remember it's a 4-part attack. So a lot of it comes down to game knowledge, like making the right decision at the right time, and then some of it is mechanics. Like if I hadn't have blocked that 4-part attack at that time, I probably would have died. And that just comes down to practice, you know, you just got to do it over and over. And then I get another Neurothrope spawn, but I had saved that last crack grenade from earlier. And it didn't outright kill him, but it only took a couple shots to get him down, so that was pretty awesome. And with the crack grenades, usually I try to get up pretty close to the Neurothrope and then throw it. That way I can just make sure it doesn't miss, you know, because it feels bad if it misses. Oh no, I don't think I saw that Guardian Relic right there. Let's see if I pick it up. I don't remember picking it up. I'm having a little bit of a rough time with this Lictor here. There we go, finally got him down. Oh, that feels bad, man. That probably would have been better if I had seen that Guardian relic. And I remember thinking too, like I checked all the or I thought I checked all the spots. I was like, dang, no relics this run? That's funny. So I got lucky and it only made me put 3 bombs down. This room comes down to just like random RNG, what the director decides, because sometimes you guys know it'll make you go down to the bottom room and put down 2 more bombs sometimes. So a little bit of luck on this run, but you know, that's how it goes. I can clear like solo lethal with the bulwark if I use a fencing weapon pretty like consistently, but this was my first time getting it on Vanguard. And then I've been, since here, I haven't cleared it again, but I've been trying like really random builds, like the block knife. The balanced knife actually seems pretty decent. I got about halfway through a run with that one. I'm sure I could do it with the fencing chainsword, but I just haven't wanted to try since I just did it with the block chainsword. And then I stopped for a second to take a picture for a thumbnail. I wasn't sure if I wanted to leave this in the video. I might still cut it out in editing, but you know, I don't want to bore you guys, but at the same time, I don't want there to be like cuts in the run for somebody to be down in the comments like, "Oh, I noticed the video skipped. This is 2 different runs." So, trying to get a cool picture here. I did spend some time trying to get the drip right with my outfit, so I thought it looked pretty cool. I like the Dark Angels cosmetics. I think they're pretty cool. I think the basic ass chainsword with the yellow stripe on it kind of looks cool. All right, and then we'll just speed this part up a little bit because it was a pretty long section. So just getting one more picture here, and then I just sped this up by 600% so we can get through this little part real quick. That's pretty much the same as any difficulty. Just scout the area for any supplies that you need and get ready for the swarm. And then it's pretty much same old, even with lethal solo. This whole section is actually pretty easy. I mean, if you die here, you just messed up pretty bad. So just as they're coming down, you're just gonna blow them up. I don't like to shoot all the explosives, you know, at the same time. That way I can try to let a big ball of my Norse enemies build up. So I'll kind of try to spread them out a little bit. And then just don't get preoccupied with shooting the guys down below so you don't get hit. And then just clear out the little Minoris enemies. So as you can see there, like I was saying earlier, the block chainsword, it can be a little difficult to deal with those. So I had to back up and then go for 2 stomps. That way I could clear them out without taking much damage. And then I missed the red circle there, but I got the block. Then I'm going to get some armor back there. And then get all my armor topped off. Then we're just going to go back to clearing out the little Minoris guys, set off another explosive. Alright, we're about halfway done with this section. And here I like to use the gun a lot since there's an ammo box right there. So I'll just willy-nilly shoot whenever I want. And then one thing that's nice about the block chainsword is even if you do start to take damage, if you just stay on the offensive, you can usually heal up your contested health fast enough to where it's not going to be a big deal. So there, I took a couple hits, but I got most of it back. And then you can just top the rest off with executions. And definitely taking the 50% bigger block or parry window perk on the Vanguard is really helpful. It makes it just so much easier to hit those blocks and parries. I think that's a mandatory perk. You gotta take that one. All right, we got the adrenaline surge there. And see how quickly, I mean, that guy was at full health and I killed him super fast. So that's when the blockchain sword is actually pretty nice because it would have taken a little longer with the fencing, but it really depends on situations because sometimes with the blockchain sword, you can't make an opening for yourself. Like the fencing chain sword could like knock them out of their animation and give you an opening. So sometimes the fencing's gonna be better in a situation like against the lictors, and then sometimes the block is better when you have more of a chance to get on the offensive because it just deals more damage. But for overall survivability, don't take block if you're having a hard time staying alive in lethal. Just take fencing because it does have better survivability. But if you know if lethal's not too hard for you on team lethal, you can mess around with some block weapons, or you can even like bump it down a difficulty and take it into ruthless or substantial. All right, and then we're on the home stretch here. Just gonna fast forward this bit real quick. All right, and now we're back to it. This part can get a little difficult sometimes. It just depends on the spawn. Sometimes you can basically just like run right through here, and then other times you'll get a shitload of enemies right here. So it really just depends on what kind of spawns it gives you. But so far we're looking pretty good. So we're just going to quickly take out these guys. And try not to stand in those green bio puddles if you can, because those will mess you up pretty fast on lethal, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. And no relic there because it was in the other room and I didn't see it. All right, and then moving right along here. One thing that I think would be a cool game mode is like a shorter game mode, because not everyone has freaking, 45 minutes to run through a mission all the time. So it'd be cool if there was like some 20-minute missions, and it does take a bit longer on solo just because you have to kill everything yourself. But even in team runs, I mean, this mission can take a solid like 30 minutes sometimes. So it would hopefully horde mode whenever they introduce it, it'll have some shorter options. And then I did not react fast enough to that Ravener popping out of the ground, so he took out a bunch of my health. And then I left the melt-a-bomb on the ground there, but I should have put it up a little farther because I don't think I end up hitting the neurothropes with it, but I do try. And then, oh man, I hate that slime that the Raveners leave on the ground. It's the most obnoxious mechanic. And they're so fast and they just leave the slime everywhere. The Ravener and the Lictor and the Neurothropes, they're cool, but they all have a mechanic that kind of like slows down the pace of the game. The Ravener goes underground, the Lictor disappears, and the Neurothropes bubble. And, depending on their positioning, you may not be able to shoot the one that's not bubbled a lot of the time. So it gets annoying because you'll be moving at a good pace, killing everything, and now you've got to like wait for the lictor to reappear or wait for the bubble to switch, and it can just be like a little obnoxious at times. And then one really good thing is if your gun that you're using has a zoom scope like that and you can safely do it, definitely do that because it takes away all of the recoil and it seems to also like make the spread be a lot less to where you just have like a laser focused shot and it can help you like really take out stuff fast. But you can't do that too often because it's super not safe since you can only see through the scope. But in that situation, I was able to do it. So especially if you're dealing with neurothropes, try to zoom in if it's safe to do so. And then I got a pretty big spawn wave here. And I think I ended up having quite a bit of trouble with this wave because I think some reinforcements get called if I remember. So as you can see there, there's like maybe like 10 Majoris enemies. So this was a pretty insane spawn that I got. So this run wasn't all good, like lucky RNG. I had to deal with a little bit of bullshit. So they're all rushing me here. I'm getting pushed back a little bit. I mistimed my dodge. So let's see how I survive this. Luckily, those two guys were like perfectly synced up, so that was pretty easy to block. And then I get some more nice blocks off. And when you're starting to get surrounded, just like kite backwards. You don't really want to let them get all around you because it can get a lot more difficult at that point. So if you have room to back up, just kind of like kite backwards, but don't go backwards too fast because you're going to use up your space behind you. Just kind of like, back up a little bit at a time and try to keep them all in like a cone in front of you. So I got that block off and got an adrenaline surge off, so I was able to get some damage off there. And then I did kind of like go into the middle of the pack here, so I'm gonna have to be careful. And then I actually misclicked here and accidentally alt tabbed out, and I was like, oh my god, no. And then I was like, okay, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. So that costed me a bit of health and what was left of my armor, but luckily that guy only needed a couple more hits. So I got a little bit of health and some armor back, get off a perfect dodge, get that execute, and now we're looking okay here. And then I lose one of my armors. And then boom, see that got both of them in the execute. So that's when the adrenaline surge can be kind of nice. I don't know how that would have worked out if I had a fencing weapon because that was a pretty massive group. It may have been easier just because the parry gives you a little more room, but sometimes I get myself into trouble with fencing because I take gun strikes at bad times and it ends up getting me hit. So I'll like gain a little bit of armor from the gun strike and then just lose it all plus some health. So yeah, they both have their advantages. But for a gun strike heavy class like assault where he gets armor back off of gun strikes, I think fencing might be better. But I have seen some people clear solo lethal with the block hammer, so. And then I got backed up into the wall there, so I'm like, okay, that's not good. Let's back out of there. And then I get the block off. So yeah, try not to let yourself get right up against the wall like that. And then luckily the lictor decided to go after my bulwark. So we're going to go ahead and take care of him next. Alright, and then we're almost to the boss here. Gonna check for another relic. Nope. And I'm thinking, what the heck, man? Little did I know, I walked right by it. And then all three of these guys are spike shooters, so I gotta be careful here. But now there's just two of them. So yeah, that's generally how you're gonna deal with those guys is, you can roll towards them so their spikes can't hit you, and it's even better if you come in at kind of an angle so you're dodging the spikes as you're getting closer. Alright, so we got this room cleared out now. We're getting pretty close to the end here. We'll speed up this section a little bit. Alright, and then I think I remember this room ends up being easy this time. This room can get pretty crazy sometimes, but it just depends on the run. So we'll clear out that guy real quick. Looks like a whip warrior and a couple sword warriors. Oh, that's kind of a lot of Minoris enemies, actually. I don't remember what happened here. Let's see if I get through it without too much trouble. Alright, so I get an adrenaline surge. And see, I'm just kind of like immediately backing up, giving myself some space to work with. I think I just saw a lictor. Yep. 2 of them. Oof, it's not looking good here. Let's see if I can survive. Yeah. I should have turned and backed up further toward the elevator that I came up on, because I backed myself into a corner there, and I would have had a little more room had I gone toward the elevator. And sometimes, since the elevator entrance is kind of like a closed gap, you can kind of like funnel them through there and use it as like a last defense area before you get cornered, and usually it can help you out a bit. Oof. Almost died there, but got the clutch block off. And then I didn't get the perfect block on that lictor attack, but at least I was able to save myself from getting damaged with a regular block. Woo! Got the perfect dodge. I think that perk with the 50% increased dodge below 50% health probably kicked in there, so that can be a lifesaver. And then I got the dodge on that red circle attack. And finish off the second lictor. So, mistakes that I did there is I think I should have backed up a little more, because I got a little bit surrounded there, and then just lost my first life, unfortunately, but I'm able to gain it back here, luckily, because I played that second half of the fight pretty well. And that's just kind of like one thing to keep in mind is, especially on like Vanguard or Bulwark, is if an encounter goes badly and you lose a bunch of health, don't get discouraged, because if you play well, you can usually get it all back. Alright, and now we're ready to go ahead and fight the boss here. I had never made it to the boss with a block weapon before, so this was my first try with a block weapon, and it was a lot harder because usually, like with a fencing weapon, you can get some armor back from parrying him and stuff, but here it's just pretty brutal, so this whole fight was pretty difficult. And I've fought the Hive Tyrant a lot of times, and he's pretty easy with the right setups, but man, this one was rough. And I think it was at that point that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to melee this dude. I don't want to lose this run at this point, so I just resorted to shooting him here, so I'm just going to play it safe. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but if you're having trouble with the Hive Tyrant, just don't go into melee with him. If you're like using a fencing weapon, usually you can just wade into melee, and if you're used to his attacks, you can just parry all of his attacks. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta resort to the good old stay far away and shoot. And then one thing I like to do in the Hive Tyrant fight is make sure when I come into the fight that I know where the ammo box is. And yeah, unfortunately, I go down there because as long as you know where the ammo box is, you know, if you need a refill, you can try to try to stay close to it. But if you don't know where it is and you run out of ammo and the Hive Tyrant's on you and you're like frantically trying to look for it, I've died like that before. So it's really beneficial to just spot it out as soon as you get into the room. That way you know where to get ammo if you need. And then usually I like to save the grenades for when the Majoris enemies spawn in, but I didn't get a chance to throw it at them in this run. So I'm just going to have to deal with them in melee here, but I think I'm able to take them out pretty quickly. So there I got the first one down. But yeah, it's super beneficial when you're soloing Hive Tyrant if you like have a crack grenade or one of the bombs. If just save it for when the ad guys spawn in and just take them out with the grenades or the bomb immediately, because that's usually how I fail solo lethal. If I'm gonna fail on the Hive Tyrant fight, it's when the ads spawn in, because it gets difficult if the Hive Tyrant's on you and the ads are attacking you. It can get really difficult. So yeah, just clear the ads as quickly as you can, and then once you're back to dealing with the Hive Tyrant, it's not so bad. And then I find a lucky med kit here, armor boost, so I'm all looking pretty good again. So we're just gonna chip away at him. I found that when he does that rush attack, if you dodge towards him, usually that seems the most consistent way to dodge it and get a gun strike. And then I always like to just like look around the arena while he's fighting the bots and pick up whatever I can, because every little thing that you pick up really helps. So just pick up all the power-ups, whatever you can find, grenades. And then that whip has a deceptively long reach, so watch out for that. And then I got the first dodge, but he gets me with the follow-up attack, but I was able to dodge the whip there, gun strike, dodge, and then he gets me with the third attack in that combo. But that's okay, I got a gun strike off on him, so at least we traded damage. And then I found those crack grenades there, so I think I'm going to save them for the second phase when the ads spawn in again. And sorry for the couple pauses, I had to deal with something. But yeah, I think the Oculus Bolt Carbine does quite a lot of work. I've never leveled up the Melta, but I do like the Carbine quite a bit. Alright, so we've almost got him to the second phase here. Alright, here we go, second phase. I have seen players, like, if you hit him with something really damaging, you can interrupt his bubble that he does at the first part of the second phase. So you can try to do that too. So second phase is pretty much business as usual, except we have a couple more attacks we need to worry about here. So once again, I'm like, nope, I'm not going to go into melee with him. I'm just going to shoot him. Luckily, I was able to get the gun strike there to get my contested health back. Anytime you take big damage, try to get your contested health back, however you have to do it. And then with those energy beams, you can dodge all three, and then depending on how well you do it, you can get a gun strike sometimes. And then with the energy bubbles, I find dodging like into it works the best. Alright, got the gun strike, got my contested health back. Another gun strike. And with those three-part energy wave attacks that he does, the first and second ones are really close together, which is what I messed up on that one. So try to do like dodge dodge, because that's the timing for that one, and then the third one is kind of delayed. So I think the ads spawned in, so I'm gonna try and get the crack grenades on them so I don't have to worry about them. But be careful with the crack grenades, because if the enemy's too close to you, it'll blow you up too. But luckily I was able to dodge it. And then there's just one ad left. Unfortunately, I missed the hook shot on him, but I think I'm gonna try and take care of him real quick. I think I whiffed the crack grenade, unfortunately. And then see, this is why you want to get the ads cleared as quickly as possible, because he was attacking me and it stunned me, and then the boss's energy bubble hit me. So that's the exact problem that I didn't want to happen, but luckily it didn't end up being too big of a deal. And then we'll get the execute, get a little life back, dodge out of that. And then once you have the second group of add-ons cleared from the second phase of the fight, you're pretty much on the home stretch. I mean, if you die in this part, it's just, on you, like you've messed up. So you can breathe a little bit, and usually if I make it to this part, I'm like, okay, we made it. So 1, 2, 3. So just get used to dodging that one. Throw a little electric grenade on him. That actually did some pretty decent damage. You just have to do it at a time when he's not going to charge out of the electric field. Get a gun strike off. One more electric grenade. That one did not do any damage. And then I kind of messed up there. I should not have taken that gun strike. Just be careful when you take the gun strikes, because a lot of times it can get you killed more than it'll help you. Alright, one more gun strike. You still want to take them, but just be careful. Dodge the whip. Oof. Now I'm pretty close to dying here, so I gotta be super careful. But we almost got him down. There, I perfectly timed that one, so it gave me the gun strike. And then I got another one, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's how you do a solo lethal run with the block chainsword. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. Have you guys tried any solo lethal runs? Let me know how those are going, what you're struggling with, or if you see any pointers on like what I could do better from my run, leave me a comment about that too. Thanks.